Gross money in assignments was $95,000, $20 at a time. So Alabaster, Alabama, the assignment fee on that one was $35,000. Now, the next one that we did was one in Shelbyville, Tennessee. So that one was a pretty good one. That was like $26K on that deal. Hey, everybody, it's Cris Chico. And today I have a very, very exciting video for you here today because we're going to share this story of how Jonathan here was able to escape the cold calling penitentiary. He was filled with pain and suffering, calling and speaking with property owners that didn't want to talk to him. He was the annoying pest, but we saved him. And I want to share the story with him, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the trials and the tribulations, so that way you know exactly the path you have in front of you in order to achieve the same thing. And so I want to say, first of all, thank you, Jonathan, for coming on board and sharing your story. And appreciate you allowing us to help you, too, as well. So thank you very much for coming on. You look very official with all your gear in the back. I think I need some lights in my back.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And thank you for the introduction. And thank you also for the help, because I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for all the things that I've learned in your program. So thank you so much as well. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. So when you and I first spoke on the phone, you were doing cold calling, right? And so where were you at with the cold calling in terms of how long you were doing it for, and what did you experience with that as you were trying to get deals done with that?
Yeah, so I had started kind of on the tail end of 2023, but it just is easier math if you say the beginning of 2024. And up until I started or got on my first call with you, I was doing the traditional means of marketing, which is basically driving for dollars, going to county lists, cold calling those. And I think my most direct sense of marketing was mailers, and then doing a ton of follow-up to anybody that I could get as a lead there. And I did that for about, like I said, from the beginning of 2024 right into mid to late summer of 2024. So 7-8 months is probably about the time that I was doing cold calling.
And you were pulling the records and just dialing them from your phone? Or did you have like a big, dialer and all this other stuff?
Nope. I did have a VA help me organize it all, and then I would skip trace it in a big batch. But other than that, yeah, single line dialer, no power dialer, nothing crazy.
No power dialer, yeah. No. At what point? Was it that you and I got connected through YouTube, right?
Correct. Yep. I was those 8 months. I was on YouTube, I would say almost every day, just trying to figure out how to crack the code, because I see all these people making these big assignment checks, and I'm just like, okay, so I know it's working, but how is it working for them?
Just in general, with regards to online lead generation, like you were doing cold calling. You wanted to find a different thing to do. Had you considered anything outside of online lead generation as your option, or was that the only kind of option that you settled on, and then you were trying to figure out a solution for that?
No, basically, I went to a real estate event in Fresno. I met CEO of Investor Lift, Robert Wensley. He had told me basically to do online lead generation through another PPL provider. So initially I was looking into a PPL provider, but the cost of it is like, if you don't get a deal out of 10 or 15 leads, like you're out $3,000. And so I knew online lead generation was the way, but I was just trying to find, I guess, the most economical way to go about it. But I knew that's where I wanted to go.
By the way, if you're interested, we can set up this entire system for you. Just click the link in the description, fill out some details. I'll come back to you. I'll give you all the information, no sales call required. And then you can see for yourself what it's going to take. And now you can finally get out of the cold calling penitentiary, get some hot leads, warm incoming leads, and start doing deals. Right. And then so we spoke about Facebook, and Facebook is a relatively inexpensive way, right, to start getting leads. And then now you set it up. Like we have a service where we set it up for clients, but you set it up yourself. Part of that, I think, was the budget. But I think from what I remember, you were a little bit hesitant, wondering if you could set it up. Or did you find that process difficult to set it up?
No. I never had any hesitancy about it setting it up. I was maybe a little hesitant about the course in terms of like how thorough it was, but if I were to make a course, I would want it to be as thorough as your course. So that complete confidence, a few, maybe sticking points, but nothing that was huge. And obviously your support was awesome as well. But no, that was a great investment. And, I would do it again 100 times over.
So you got the course, you set everything up, and then now the leads started to come in.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you made a comment to me about this a couple of times is that the difference in those leads versus the cold calling leads. I mean, what would you say to somebody that says, "Hey, what's the first thing I'm going to notice if I'm doing cold calling and versus doing Facebook leads?" What would you say positives, and then also I don't know if there's any negatives. What would be the positives on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't done any cold calling, this will maybe not resonate with you the most. But if you've done, a decent amount of cold calling over, let's say, I mean, you could do enough cold calling in a month, honestly. But let's just say you have an understanding of what cold calling is. The first minute to 30 seconds already feels like a huge battle, right? You're calling them cold. So you need to get more time on the phone. And like, you're not even worried about a deal or real estate or whatever you want to boil it down to. You're not even concerned with that at that point, right? With the Facebook ads or inbound lead generation, that huge hurdle is already down, right? These people have submitted information. They want to talk to you. Now, obviously, that comes with its own challenges that are a part of, like, I think wholesaling in general.
Yeah.
But just obviously that first, hurdle of like, okay, these people want me to call them and I don't have to fight them tooth and nail just to say, are you interested in selling your property? I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest things, that's different. And obviously there's more, but I say probably that's the biggest one that you're just like, okay, now my set of issues that I need to solve aren't about continuing the conversation. They're about what I'm actually trying to do with wholesaling real estate.
Now, one of the things that, like with the leads, as they were coming in, obviously now you had more leads to work with. And you and I talked about this is that I always say that there's no course, no matter what course you take on sales, there's nothing beats the volume and the repetition of talking with property owners. Maybe you can speak about that, because I'm asking you this because a lot of people, I think, don't understand the importance of, you need lots of leads if you're brand new, so you can actually be good at talking on the phone with people.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Obviously, the language, the terminology, the rebuttals, and all the objections you're going to handle, really, and that's like with everything, right? Riding a bike, driving a car, you get better as the more reps that you put in and you continue to do it. Now, you can get those reps over cold calling, which, is a beast of in itself. But I would say, yes, with this particular strategy that Cris is talking about, the price of the leads on top of the volume as a beginner is probably the easiest and the best way for you to go about it, so that you're not discouraged to not continue, right? Because if you cold call a bunch and you get those reps in, I mean, you're going to handle, like I did. I mean, for essentially 7 to 8 months, I did I would call it like 1.5 deal, because my second deal, we just broke even and we just did a deal to help somebody. So that was a ton of no's for, over the thousands of calls I probably made.
Yeah. Now, would you say that, and maybe there isn't, I don't know, but when you're dealing with that many leads, I mean, I think the one negative, and you and I spoke about this last week, is that sometimes it could be a little bit overwhelming, right? With that many leads coming in sometimes, and you've experienced that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As a one man team, as of now, there is a threshold that you would probably need to stay under in order to follow up acquisition and disposition and analysis or due diligence for each lead that comes in. There is definitely a threshold for one person, and I kind of got my feel for that over the past couple of weeks. It's actually been very apparent. But yeah, there definitely is a number of leads that one person can handle when you're going from inbound to disposition. Absolutely.
How many leads is it? Like, well, what have you found for you? Because you're full time, so you have you're available the whole day. What's the limit where you feel like after that you're going crazy out of your mind because there's way too much stuff coming in?
I definitely didn't come prepared to answer the number of leads, but I will say it does fluctuate depending on how much follow-up you have, because right, like you're basically splitting your time between people that are, because
New?
everybody, yeah, not new, but everybody comes in lukewarm, right? So then you
Yeah.
need to figure out, location, obviously, like where's the likelihood of this happening. Then I would say the next thing is probably the temperature of where they're at to sell, right? Somebody who, let's say, has a job, they have a new job, they're getting relocated in 3 weeks, and somebody who's, just looking around, you have to decipher, who you're going to give your attention to, right? Obviously, the person that
Right.
has a time period. And then after those kind of two things, then you got to go from there in terms of, the area, are there more buyers there, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't have a number I could maybe get in. We could put it down in the comments or something, but there's a few factors at play there.
Yeah, I think in terms of a budget, though, I would say like $75 a day is probably approaching that, right? Depending on how you're targeting.
In terms of a marketing budget, yeah,
Yeah,
no, I would say 75 is probably the max. And if Facebook or whatever we're all, we're talking about is really in that right audience, 75 is almost too
yeah,
much. But
yeah.
yeah, I
Because
would say right around there.
you've had days where you had like eight to 10 leads coming in one day, and
Yeah,
then plus you have the stuff you're trying to follow up on, etc. So it gets hairy.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to, I want to talk about some of the deals you've done, just to give everybody context, and so in general, just to give everybody some ideas. And I'm trying to be. I want to also make sure that I want to be giving in all the information we can, so then that way people have a clear picture of what the good and the bad are with this, in terms of not necessarily bad, but what to expect, right? We don't want to tell everybody here that, oh, you're going to spend $20 and going to make like $100,000, right, or something like that.
I hope.
But
I wish.
yeah, I wish that was the case. Then you definitely moved down to Miami.
I know that's the goal, right? We're all trying
Yeah,
to
the goal. The goal is everybody. So you've done approximately, cash collected. Well, there's a couple of nuances here. Gross money in assignment was 95,000. However, he collected personally 70. Where's the gap? It's $25,000 gap. The $25,000 gap is that initially when Jonathan first started, he had us actually sell a few of his deals, because he wanted to be focused on doing deals, talking with the sellers. He gave us the deals to sell. Those, one deal was a 35K deal, another one was a 14K deal. We got half, he got half. So he made net in his pocket 70. The gross on that was 95. He does have another deal that is pending to close, waiting on. That's another 35K. And so we're not counting that, because we never count on money until it gets hits our account and nobody comes asking for it. And then in general, total gross approximately, he spent 13,000 on ads. Now, he didn't spend that all. I want to make sure you guys understand. He didn't spend that all in one time. This is a great benefit to this, is that he spent it $20 at a time. He spent it $30 at a time, meaning that if he gave Facebook $20 or $30 and Facebook got him leads today, then he felt comfortable giving them tomorrow another $20 or $30, right? And then, from the ROI perspective, just to give everybody an idea, if we're just looking at the gross, right? Because again, we help sell some of your deals, but just on the gross numbers, I'm not going to include the 35K that you have pending. So I'm only going to do it based on actual cash collected. The ROI on that is about 7.3, I believe. Let me see. I believe, 7.3. Your other deal will bring it up. But I tell everybody in general, right? If you could be somewhere between 7 to 8 or 9, that's amazing, right? In terms of an ROI, meaning money you put in, money that you put out.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard above 4 is good. Like that's where you want to be, is above 4. And then I don't know what the upper threshold is, but I know where I'm at right now is really high. And then I want to say on top of that, whoever's watching, I know it sounds gross, or net, that I made a ton of money, but if you are running your business property and putting all of the funds where they need to go to make you a sustainable business, that's not all just like, oh, I'm sitting here king of the hill, right? And I'm still growing and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it has been, better than I could have imagined since I started. So it's been awesome.
Now, all the deals that all the leads pretty much that you have done, with the exception of one being in your neck of the woods, you're in California, but they've all been, all the leads that have come in and all the deals that you've done have all been in all over the country. How difficult was that in the beginning? Was that probably one of the more difficult parts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm still getting used to the learning curve of that as well. I've had a deal fall through, or two deals fall through in Cleveland due to, shaky buyer situations where I could have probably been better at vetting them. And then another one in Illinois, the one that I closed in Illinois, I did have a JV partner on that one as well. And they were local and they helped me out a lot in that instance as well. So, there's a learning curve. It's not the easiest thing ever, but also it's not impossible. People are doing it daily. So, there's definitely a learning curve there that I'm still taking on myself. But like I said, people are doing it. There's people all over YouTube doing it. So, it's not impossible.
Yeah, I think that the one piece of advice I think you gave somebody in our group, Steve, was that sometimes you just have to be okay with taking a chance on a property, and then and then knowing that if you cannot find a buyer, you're not going to drag the seller out, but because we're upfront with the sellers that we do need to do an inspection, etc., on the property within the inspection period. But I think you're more aggressive right now in terms of, if you think there's a deal there, you put on the contract, and then you try and see if you can get input from the buyers. Is that accurate?
I could probably be a little bit more aggressive. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. I think I've been a little bit hesitant on the trigger. So I think it was another person who said that, and I may have piggybacked off that. But yeah, absolutely. I agree that
Eric said that. Eric said that. I think.
Eric. And
what causes you hesitancy to put a property under contract right now?
I would say for me, maybe I put a little too much word or trust in what the buyers are saying in terms of other offers that they're receiving.
The sellers.
The sellers, correct. The sellers, sorry. They're telling me numbers that just, they're blowing my mind. How I'm like, how on earth can an investor or anybody doing what we're doing make a profit at those numbers, right? So then it kind of makes me second guess my own numbers. But that, and then probably just general activity in the area. And then obviously the harder places to figure out is maybe those secondary and tertiary markets where it's teetering rural, but there's activity and you just don't know if there's going to be, someone there that's actively investing. Right. But there's ways to combat that as well.
If you don't, let's say if you're, I guess part of it is, you're never going to bat 100%.
Correct.
You're never going to bat 100%. So you have to be okay. You don't want to bat 10%, right? Because that's way too low. But if you could be at, ideally it would be 6, 2 out of 3, that, because, you might put a property in the contract. And like you said, when the buyer goes out there, then they tell us, oh my God, this house is horrible. And the seller thought, oh yeah, this is not that bad of a shape. But the thing is falling apart, and their opinion of what's a good condition versus our opinion of what's a good condition varies tremendously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a few of the deals you've done. So I'm going to go through them here in no particular. Well, actually, let's go through the first one. This is the one that popped our cherry. I know I shouldn't say that. That's a joke. But let me bring in the screen here. Let's see if we can do this here correctly. We got this amazing little property that Gene sold. Gene on our team, National Property Buyer Team. So he sold this one. This was a mobile home that appeared to be really in the middle of Florida, like really not that much there. Do you remember what this particular lady's situation was? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I don't know if you remember what her situation was.
She was, I don't know if it was job related, but she lived in that area, and her daughter's school and I think extracurricular activities and kind of their whole life was in another area that was really taking a toll on her getting back and forth. And it just wasn't, the location wasn't a fit for their lifestyle or whatever was going on at that moment in time. And that's their reason for selling. And yeah, honestly, 100% transparency. If it wasn't for Gene and his relationships in the area and working with this buyer before, no chance I would have sold this deal. I mean, maybe there's a chance. I never say never on anything, but that you get lucky in this business sometimes, I feel like, and everybody needs luck here and there. And like I said, without Gene in this one, I probably would have been dead on the water in this one.
Well, let me tell you, I was surprised when we sold it.
Yeah, no, so, Gene knew right away that, he said, I have a guy that buys these really peculiar properties, and it ended up working out.
Yeah. And then on that property, we made, there was a total gross assignment fee of $14,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then now the next property, just to give everybody context, this one was in Alabaster, Alabama. And again, you had not been to Alabaster, Alabama. You don't have a desire to go to Alabaster, Alabama, I assume, right?
Not in the particular near future. No, I don't.
Yeah. So Alabaster, Alabama is, just to give everybody context, Birmingham is up here. And then Alabaster is a subdivision here. Do you remember what the particular circumstances were regarding this particular property?
This gentleman, I think, was just going through divorce. Other than that, I don't remember.
Okay. Got it. And then that one was a good one. That one. Now, when you gave that one to sell to us, did you know that it was because on this particular property, the assignment fee on that one was $35,000. Did you think that it was going to be that much?
No, I was pretty sure. I was taken back. I was surprised. I had no idea what was going on here. Once again, had you guys help me out on this one, and Gene did find what I believe to be, the perfect buyer for this property as well.
Yeah. I remember that I was actually grilling in my backyard, and he sent me a text. He says, "I think I might have a $35K for Jonathan." I was very happy for you, of course, because I knew that would be your second deal. Yeah.
Yeah. No. It was great.
So that was Alabaster, Alabama. And again, let's see, the next one that we have here, I think this is the one you did as a JV, the one in Davis, Illinois. Is that right?
Absolutely. I did that with another student who was local to the area.
Yes, that's right. Now, this one here, do you remember what the circumstances were with this person here?
Yeah, that was I'd rather not get into that one, but I was helping an elderly gentleman try to get transitioned into a living arrangement via his daughters. So that's kind of what.
Got it. Okay.
It turned out. Yeah, okay. It turned out to be a lot more sticky once I, kind of got in contact with the family, yada yada yada, and but yeah, that's the long story short on that one.
Got it. Okay, so that was and that one there. I was wondering if I got if the connection dropped off just a little bit because I kind of froze there for just a second. That one was a small one. That was a 47. Actually, that was the 4750. That was your share. So it was a 9K assignment. It looks like, right?
It was a 3-way split.
Oh, it was a 3-way? Did you split so it was 4750 times 3?
Correct.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay. And now the next one that we did was one in Shelbyville, Tennessee. That one was actually you did that. Did you do that one on your own? I think you did that one on your own, right?
Yeah, correct. I did that one on my own.
Okay. So that one was a pretty good one. That was like 26K on that deal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now you had some trials and tribulations with that one, didn't you?
Yeah, that one was a divorced and deceased situation where we just needed to get a hold of a few, ex-wives and find some people that still had some entitlement to the property, but we were able to get that taken care of. But yeah, there was some hair on that deal for sure.
But that one was a pretty big house.
Yeah, it was a previous bed and breakfast. So multiple rooms, everything like that. And I did find a buyer who was able to take that on.
And how did you find the buyer on that one?
I found that one through Investor Lift.
And then let me just see here. I was just going to show, making sure that I show. Let me just share the screen on that one. I think that one. Yeah, that one is in. Where was this one? This one was Nashville's here. So this was in a smaller geo in a town called Shelbyville, Tennessee, which I had never heard about before. Neither have you, I think, right?
No, I have not either.
And then, what's interesting is that then you're learning the country. You're learning the geography of the USA through wholesaling, through nationwide wholesaling, right?
Absolutely.
So the next one is the one that is you closed on it, you got paid partial, then you have the other amount coming up. Now this one was interesting because this one was a mobile home, and typically we do mobile homes, but only if the land was included. But as things are always strange in California, this one, the land was not included, but yet was valuable. Why was it that this one was so valuable, even though the land wasn't included?
Yeah, this just goes back to, local market knowledge. Obviously, this is in my backyard. So I knew that I could find a buyer for it just because of where the area is. Obviously, if you're not familiar with Los Angeles, it might make less sense. But if you're from here, Los Angeles County, San Bernardino, Riverside County, generally, there's always people looking to do flips because the margins are generally there, just because of the high, the high price point of properties. So location is obviously still apparent, but obviously the spreads are there. And this is closer to the Valley, which is a northern part of Los Angeles. And, I figured I could find a buyer there. So that's why I went after that one.
How far are you from that particular property?
I'm probably miles, I don't know, but time wise, 40 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, depending on traffic.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, I remember in California, everything looked close on the map until you got on the highway.
Yeah, no, it looks close, but it's not close at all.
Yeah, it's not close at all. All right, so those are all the deals you did. They were all virtual, and then also, not areas that you had ever done this before in. Now, as you're kind of, you're doing Facebook ads predominantly right now, and then what is your thinking process in terms of, and this is kind of a conversation on the fly. You're doing deals nationwide, but now I think lately you've been trying to narrow it down to a smaller geography, right? Smaller number of states. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I mean, I don't know if this is answering your question, but yeah, my main goal is to continue to be more consistent. All of these deals have been, the word isn't sporadic, but have been more spread out than I would like. So obviously I'm just working on ways to compress the timeline from inbound leads to, getting them closed and getting paid, and getting that on a more or as consistent base as I possibly can.
Well, and again, in the beginning, you were spread out, but that facilitated more leads and a lower cost per lead. Now that you feel more confident about your abilities, you're able to narrow down the area. The cost per lead will increase, not horribly, but will increase. Yeah. But you're okay with it because you feel more confident about kind of, your capabilities, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I would say that I didn't do a ton of nationwide when I came into the program, but I obviously maybe feel like I didn't need as much of that practice. So I definitely came in more from a practical mindset, like, okay, I don't want.
You were targeting the major states. Targeting the major states, right?
Exactly. For the majority of this, I've only been in, between, it's flip flop, anywhere between like 12 and 16 states, 11 to 16. That's majority of how I've been marketing. I've done nationwide here and there, but the majority of it was from more targeted approach.
Now, have you been thinking, I know you and I had a conversation, you're with Facebook, and we had a conversation whether or not you should, add on TikTok or add on Google. What's your thought process right now on that?
Yeah. So in my mind, personally, I feel like I want to go as quickly towards Google as humanly possible, just because what I guess this is considered is disruptive marketing, the current
Yeah.
ways I'm marketing now. And I think that's an essential, I think that's a great way to market as well, because it has its own positives. But in my mind, I want to get to Google as quickly as possible. But obviously with Google, that comes a greater, bill that you have to handle and be able to withstand.
Yeah.
So right now I'm going to obviously keep Facebook. You kind of talked me into getting into TikTok. As of now, I tried some in the past. I didn't find a huge return on it. It was all right. I stopped it for the time being. So I think I'm going to kind of diversify a little bit at the current time. Hopefully close 1 to 2 more deals within the next 3 months. That's kind of my goal. And then that should give me enough cushion to then have a specific budget set aside for getting into Google.
Yeah, and it's I think the decision for Facebook, it's a combination of things. It was driven by budget, right? So you couldn't
100%.
the thought of you spending more money, but at the same time, I think that you learning Facebook set the foundation for now when you go into Google and go and see on the other platforms as you're going through the training that we have, is that then the foundation is there, right? And so then now because the problem with Google is that whereas with Facebook you got started and you got your first deal with not too much money. In Google, you got to give it. You're going to have to spend. You and I talked about it. $2,500, $3,000 minimum per month for at least 2 or 3 months. Otherwise, then you're kind of not giving the effort necessary in order to make that platform work. Yeah,
no, 100%. I know a little bit about Google. I'd still have to go through all the material that you were talking about, but I've heard great stories where people put in some cash and they get a really big assignment right off the bat. And I've heard, the exact opposite, right? So
yeah.
You just got to kind of be comfortable with either of those results, essentially.
Yeah. I had a question for you. For somebody who is, and I want you to answer this question agnostic to, I don't want you to say it like, oh, join Chico's program. This is more of a general question of, if somebody's sitting here as a brand new investor and they're being told you got to cold call, right, in order to get a deal before you do any sort of paid advertising, what sort of advice would you give to them about that?
Yeah, I think it more so, I look at, for me personally, I look more so at it from a budget perspective. So, how are you going to go about this, right? Because you can go pay somebody else to cold call, right? Like, you don't have to cold call yourself. You can run ads. Like, I think it's more of my personal thought process is more of like, do you have money to invest in getting leads or do you not? If you don't, then you kind of have to cold call, right? Like, you have to figure out a way to generate income or generate leads yourself, right? Because you don't have money to generate leads. But how I look at it is if you can figure out a way to get to a paid service as quickly as possible, that's probably going to be your best bet. And whether that's, paid cold callers, paid ads, you running your own ads, I'd probably be the biggest advocate to getting to some type of inbound marketing as quickly as possible. That's kind of how I look at it. I don't even know if I answered your question, but
no, you answered the question. Meaning, just to rephrase what you said, if you've got no money, if you only got like a penny and a nickel to rub together, and that's about it, then you are going to have to get on the phone and you have to talk to, you're going to have to rough it out. I mean, there's no way about it.
Whether that's cold calling, JVing, or whatever, you have to do those free, marketing efforts. Absolutely.
And then, I mean, my thought is, if you've got money that you're going to spend on cold callers and you're going to spend on data and you're going to spend on all that, then you have to at least bring into consideration, maybe I should do something with the ads. Now, I'll tell you what the challenge is with the ads, and our approach is different, right? The approach that we follow with you is different in that, and recently I've been on the phone with a few investors, and I don't know if I told you this, but they have been pitched, agencies have been pitching them on, hey, if you want us to run your ads, we'll run them for you. And some of the numbers that I've heard have been like outrageous. Anywhere from, the lowest number I heard was $7,500 for them to run your ads for 3 months, plus you needed a $3,000 budget per month. So, I mean, that's a big ask. That's like $9,000 plus $7,000 total you have to be in. And then I heard one the other day for 12 grand that they wanted 12 grand for management and setup for Facebook ads. You're laughing. You're like, and then plus ads on top of that. That's a big ask. And so if you don't have a whole lot of money to spend, that's a tough. What we do is we teach you. I think it would benefit everybody to learn how to run the ads, even if later on you get somebody else to do it. But at least to me, I think that's the only way you were able to do it, because if you had to hire an agency, I don't think you ever would have been able to do the ads.
No, 100%. What's that one saying? It's like, if you never ask, you won't get it. And I think that's kind of where these agencies come into play. They just ask, and people are willing to pay. And honestly, if you don't want to deal with a lot of, that back end stuff, that may make sense for you. But to your point, for me in my situation, that wasn't a possibility. Like it was out of the question. So without this, I 100% agree that if I wasn't able to, learn ads from you, learn how to run them myself, and kind of go off of it based off of, kind of your strategy, I probably would have been out of commission and gone on to do something else.
I got to tell you though, the thing that irks me sometimes when I speak to people and they're like, no, I just don't want to learn ads. And I'm like, do you realize that if you learn ads, like you would never have to pay for leads. You wouldn't have to hire an agency. And then they're like, yeah, but I just don't know. I'm not that kind of person. And I'm like, are you serious? That's like the most important thing that you could ever do, learn the marketing.
I agree. All of the lifeblood, the lifeblood of wholesaling, right, is getting leads. And then secondarily, it would be, acquisitions and how you either sound on the phone or in person. Obviously, you can get better at dispositions and processes and all this types of stuff. But if you don't have leads, you don't have anything. So I agree. I totally see the value.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm extremely happy for you. For number one, I'm thankful. I'm appreciative, right, that you gave us the opportunity to help you. That's number one. Number two is I'm very, very filled with joy to know that, hey, you've got deals. You got a bank account with more money than you had when you first started with us, right? That's a key thing.
That's for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I think that now I feel like you have a capability, right? That now you feel that you're in control of your business, you're in control of the leads coming in, and you don't have to worry about that. And obviously you have to work the leads and everything else. But to me, I'm very happy for you. Every time you tell me you got a deal and you're going to be closing and you made a big check, I'm like extremely happy. You are very nice, and you send me coffee. My wife likes the coffee too. So I'm always welcoming all kinds of gifts. Anybody that wants to send me gifts. But really, I'm very happy for you, and I know this is only the beginning for you. You're going to do great things, and I think the other part of it is I think you're very good with, you've been very good with just methodically working. Like you're not overextending yourself with the ads. You're being very methodical about, okay, you got to, you're not going out and spending a bunch of money. Like you're like, okay, I got to save the money because I want to spend it on ads. That's going to produce a rate of return, etc. So I know it's all going to snowball because the hardest part you've already gone through, learning of the ads, doing your first set of deals. It's so much pain and suffering. I say that in quotes. It wasn't that horrible. Maybe sometimes with these sellers, but like you've overcome that, and then now you're coming into this year with a foundation of knowledge that now is going to just snowball. That's my opinion.
No, I truly appreciate the words, and of course a big thank you to you as well, because without me catching the YouTube video at the right time and everything lining up, I wouldn't be here either. So I do appreciate all the work that you and your team have put into me as well. And I have all of my, I'm dividing my money up. I'm trying to run this like a real business. I want to, become a sustainable wholesaler, not a fly by night wholesaler. Want to do it ethically and continue to grow my business. And that's, what we're on track to do. And that's what I'm striving towards. So still obviously have, business growth pains and all that stuff. It's not all daisies. But from where I did start, I will say, absolutely, I'm 100% in a better place after running the program. So that's without a doubt.
Well, we did. You escaped the cold calling penitentiary. We can check that off the box, right? You have done deals. You got money in the bank. We can check that box. The only thing that's still left is you got to make your way down to Miami.
The more deals, the more I can set aside for the Miami fund. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly. You need big spreads for Miami.
I know.
That could be the side of a very bad joke, but we'll just leave it right there. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. If you're interested in learning how to get up and running with Facebook ads for motivated sellers, click the link in the description, reach out to us, and that way we can see if we can help. And most importantly, check out this video here or there that'll give you more details on exactly how that strategy works. And that way you can implement it in your business.